Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. And for those of you that are living out of the tailpipe of your car, sucking on fumes because you're broke, you won't understand that. Your board members will understand it better because they've had deals not closed before, but you won't. And you tell your landlord, oh, I'm going to be able to catch you up on rent, and you tell, that's all a lie. Because you're not prefacing it by saying, oh, I'll be able to catch up with all my back payments if it closes, when it closes. And then it doesn't. But it finally did. But not on the terms that he alluded to in the beginning. It was still a good deal, but it wasn't at, where debt service was 2.75 cash flow was 2.75 times more than the debt service was. It was down to about 1.6 or 1.8. Still okay, but nowhere near, the grand slam. And still worth doing. But when you get in substance abuse, and certain states are harder than others, you have to be absolutely fucking positive. And the big law firms, for example, we had a deal that was represented by one of the big top law firms, and they didn't have a law office in bumfuck Arkansas. So they had to go hire a local bumfuck Arkansas lawyer who was allegedly, theoretically, supposedly, a healthcare cocksucker, and he wasn't. And so they had to go through another lawyer. And all that takes time. Forget the money, because the money's for free. Don't worry about the fucking money. That's for free. But shit happens. And I didn't used to believe in Murphy's Law. I really didn't. I thought that was all horse shit. Murphy's Law was, if something can go wrong, it will. It's attributed to the Irish, the drunken fucking Irish. Well, she is a drunken fucking Irishman, and he can't even tell that he was already there 9 months later, he's still in the Navy, but 10 months before, he wasn't in the Navy. They don't even know what they're saying, because they're nervous. Just as you will be. He stopped drinking, which I'd like to think had something to do with the deal finally getting closed. I'm not positive, but okay. Questions, comments about our Navy. And by the way, when we talk about where do we find board members, okay, when he's gone to 2 or 3 of the best schools on the planet, one of which is the Naval Academy. You can find these guys like shit through a goose. For those of you, I don't think we got any Harvard boys in here or Yaleys, but I mean, when you did go to one of those kind of schools that you don't have to explain about, University of Spoiled Children has got an alumni, I used to say it's longer than my dick, but it's not longer than my dick anymore, because I take those things that make it stretch your dick out, Okay, so, but I mean, University of Spoiled Children, has got an alumni, my university, you got to explain about, doesn't have those kind of, I am the alumni. I'm it. I is it. And for those of you that have associate for doctors, there's medical associations and all kinds of horse shit. And when we talk to a couple of doctors later on in the week, they go through the list of how they went to great schools, and they've got the medical associations, and and it's just, but you don't need that. LinkedIn is a tool that was made for QLA. It is the preeminent. It is it. There's nothing better than LinkedIn, or I affectionately call it link fuck. It is it. And you're going to get a link that one of you put together a couple years ago to show you how to better use LinkedIn. Now, there's been a couple of changes, and we haven't updated it. But you want the premier LinkedIn, the one that costs $150 or something like that a month. I don't know what it costs. I'm not even sure I haven't have that, but yeah, okay, whatever it is. Whatever it is, it's cheap, believe me, for what it provides. Because everybody, no matter what they say on LinkedIn, all they're interested in charity work or pro bono work. They're lying pieces of shit. they've got their hand out like they're selling pencils, a blind man selling pencils on the street corner. Every single one of them. They are. And the templates that we use are work like magic. And there's 4 or 5 that, for the subject matter, when you put in the subject matter, that are 4 or 5, and you'll figure out the part of the world that you're interested in going to, the industry, the vertical, whatever, and you'll test 5 or 10 with each, and then you'll find out which one draws in the most flies to the shit pile, and then you use that one. Or you vary between 1 or 2. And they're just, and I mean, it's easy peasy, as our daughter used to say. But the goal is you want to get their personal email address and not use that email that's on LinkedIn. And once they give you that personal email address, I mean, they're hooked. They're hooked. In a professional way. It works in Germany, and when you hear our Andreas Milner, who, this isn't true, I'm just making this up, who is the great-grandson of Hermann Goering, and the step-uncle, his step-uncle was Hitler's half-brother, and I said, all that shit, none of it's true, but it makes a better story. It makes a better story. So don't confuse me with the facts. And he just, but Tom, who's a good shit, he's a good shit, it took 10 months longer. The things, the 2 or 3 things that he mentioned that he was worried about, none of those happened. 95%, Josh Kim in his infinite wisdom when he was here on his 21st birthday a couple years ago said in our exit interview, 95% of all the things I worried about that Dan told me not to worry about never happened. 95%. 95, no, higher. 99% of the questions you've asked don't mean shit. Nobody in here has asked me a good question yet. We could go a whole seminar. I told you only one time in 27 years has anybody ever asked me something that I didn't hear before. Is this the good question now? You raising your hand? You volunteering, young man?
Yeah, we'll see. Is there anything that Tom, from your point of view, he could have done to get that deal closed faster?
Yeah, I would not do substance abuse. Simple. Because those are the hardest. They also can be the most lucrative. And that's why you're drawn to them. Because there's a lot of potential in sucking in money and fees and extra, and now you get paid to do this shit virtually. You don't even have to meet the pricks, which I think is great. I could be a fucking analyst if I never had to talk to anybody. Now, for those of you that have followed me any length of time, I've never been into shaking hands, hugging, kissing. I'm not into that shit. Unless you've got big tits and you're on your back, don't touch me. That's it. I've been saying that 27 and a half years. And now, all my birthdays have come at once with Corona. I hope we stay like this the rest of my life. Because I don't like you. I don't want to touch you. I don't want to be your friends. There's a reason I don't eat breakfast with you. There's a reason why I don't eat lunch with you. And I don't even want to have dinner with you. Sally makes me. Somebody ask her tonight. She makes me. I just come up here and talk about it. I like eating by myself. Questions, comments about Tom? Yes, sir.
Was there any other reason why the equity investor left other than how long it was going to take?
Because the deal changed. If you're going to write a check for $500,000 and you've been told the deal week after week after week is this, then Hermann Goering brings you Z instead of A, you lose confidence. Maybe the young kids don't. But are you sure shit you tell me that this is the deal, this is the deal? Oh, by the way, the deal is now this. 40% less, yada, yada. I'm just walking out and trying to get out of town as quick as I can. That's what happened. That was part of what happened. But the deal was still good. And we show you, when we talk about the SBA deals and how they break down, how that you will get, and every bank's different. You will get, some banks will accept seller, and when we talk about interviewing the banks, and you don't call it seller finance. You start by saying it's seller's equity. Because then they write it down in their little file. And then it's forevermore equity. And the federal statute in America doesn't say where the equity has to come from. Nowhere in the federal statute does it say from you or you. It doesn't say it cannot be the seller's equity. But 5% is really, the federal statute doesn't say there has to be any fucking equity. But the bank wants a cushion, so they require 5 or 10%, but it can't be the seller's equity, seller's finance. And you have to go through various banks. There's probably in America 300-400 banks that do SBA loans, Small Business Administration. And there's similar things in Canada. They're not called SBA. There's similar things in the UK. There's similar things in Germany. They call it by something else. They have these. But the downside of SBA is you're going to have a personal guarantee. The other deals don't necessarily have that. But it's the surest way to get the money is an SBA loan. And very few people will argue with, if you will, a federally guaranteed loan, because that's what it is. The United States government is guaranteeing it. Until now, at least, we have not backed out on any federal guarantees, although President Trump threatens to do such from time to time. Okay, comments? Yes, ma'am.
Does SBA require 10%?
No, I said they will ask, if you hammer them down and you go around a bunch of banks, they'll go down to 5. Yes, sir.
I've actually been calling on banks, and especially on the SBA loan, and one thing that I want everyone here to know is what I've experienced is they start off, their default is 80%, and they want 20% finance. That's just the default. That's their negotiation position that they start with. Don't accept it.
Yeah.
Make more calls or tell them, I know this is something you just offer to anybody. I'm not willing to accept that. And if they're unwilling to change.
But there's 300 or 400 of them in the U.S. At least 300 or 400. B of A is one of the biggest SBA backers. They got 4,000 branches. And every branch is different. Now, we would rather have not pool lending. In other words, you don't want your loans to be accumulated in a pool. And let's say Boston is making all the loans for the Northeast and Dallas, Texas is making all the loans. But almost 70, 80, as much as 90% of all the financial institutions, commercial banks in America, use central lending. In other words, where they pool the loans, they pool the money. Very seldom do you find, unless you go out to bumfuck Arkansas, where the bank manager actually can make the decision on the loan himself. He's not going back to be part of a pool. But that's just the modernization of banking now. When I started this 50 years ago, you could still find guys who could sign by himself a bank manager for $25 million. Those are few and far between now. They're still around, but they're few and far between. But since you're going to have somebody running your business, and you will be spending 95% of your time looking for money and looking for deals. Thank you. You can take the one glass and the coffee away, please. Thank you. It's interesting. I drink less coffee now. I probably drink equivalent of maybe 2 cups of coffee a day now. I used to drink 25 to 40 double espressos a day. 25 to 40. Coffee doesn't taste good to me anymore. I drink it just because I'm convinced myself I need the caffeine in the morning, but it just made me think of that when they took my only 1/3 a cup gone. Okay, anything else? Yes, ma'am. No, there's not. I'm not saying there's no more. There's just a lot less. No. You know, you want somebody that'll put money in the goddamn deal. And so I'm telling you not to be as choosy than when you get your first deal. You just got to get your first deal because it changes the complexion. Number one, your board now has cohesed together. They know they've done a deal. Because right now, in the beginning, you're selling off the track record of 200 years experience of all these guys and gals. But that doesn't mean they've done a deal with you. Now you've done a deal. So now you're part of that 200-year history. You're part of it. There's nothing more important than, using a vulgar term, getting your willy wet. I mean, you fuck somebody as fast as humanly possible. Now, before, when we all got with this shit where everybody is protection and all this shit. I mean, fuck them without a condom. I don't give a shit. Just fuck somebody. You have no idea. It changes your whole life. It changes your whole goddamn life. Yes, sir.
So would it be worthwhile doing a small deal just to have one deal?
No. Follow the model. 750 to $1.5 million. $1.5 million. There's a reason why we do it that way. It also leads the bank, wrongfully in my judgment. Well, these guys are measured. They know what they're doing. They're a new team, and they don't want to, bite off more than they can chew. And it is. You are measured. You're measured for a different reason, though. Because I know you're going to fuck up the management. And it's easier to fuck up a $750,000 to $1 million deal's management than a $25 million deal's management. I know you're going to fuck it up. Absolute. 100%. And your other board members aren't going to talk like it's candid. I got off a meeting yesterday. Kat, when was that meeting? We had 40 people on the call with McGuire. Was that yesterday? Day before yesterday. November 4th. 35, 40 people on the fucking meeting. And none of your board members are going to talk to you the way I do. None of the board members, even the guy that you want to be your mentor, they never are going to be as candid with you as I am. And that's a mistake. That's a mistake. But you've sucked them into the vortex with a free founder's equity. So there is a downside to giving away free stock. You may not get 100% candor in their response to you as a professional. Everybody understand that? That's the downside. Their greed and avarice. And of course, that's why it's there. And it works. But occasionally when they make a mistake, 9 times out of 10, it's me when I'm on a board, and I don't want to be in any of your boards. It's me on a board that finds the errors in the documentation. One of the kids are going to tell you in a couple of days how Mr. Peña saved me. That's a little, that's a Trump exaggeration, basically. And he's German, too, and they're not prone to exaggerate. But I stepped in the day before the board meeting and I said, we got to change the articles of incorporation. Now, I'm not going to get into all this shit, but you got to change the articles of incorporation because these constraints are too severe. No, he just like a good Gestapo. He just went forward. He didn't know why they were too severe. He just made the changes. Boom, boom, boom. You know, fixed his bayonet. Didn't ask me why. But some of the board members didn't like the changes I made because they gave him more latitude, freedom. And German boards don't like officers, executive officers have freedom because little Hitler pops up in their head. Well, last time we gave a lot of freedom to some asshole. Look what he got us into. Anything else about Tom? But I wanted to show you the other thing, why. And he was positive in the first thing, right? Shit happens. And he's not a kid like some of you, I mean, who just fell off the fucking turnip truck. He's a well-educated, seasoned guy. He's a well-educated, seasoned guy. When I was speaking at the Naval Academy, in the first row, there were, and I couldn't get with the midshipmen because all the people in the front row were girls. I kept on, something was bouncing back in my head, a midshipman. So I asked, young ladies, what do I call you? And I said, whatever you want to, sir. And so that was their answer, kind of cute. But Naval Academy was a pretty neat place. Anything else about Tom? Yes, sir.
So I think you said his first deal was $3.5 million. How much did he make out of that, personally?
He said he spent. He said he did it at 3.2 EBITDA. Is that what he? If I remember correctly, is that what he said?
I think it was less than that.
No, that's what I said. But what did he say?
Yeah, he said 2.5 to 2.7. You're right.
So what did he say again?
2.5 to 2.7, sir.
EBITDA.
Yep, EBITDA.
Okay. So he would have made roughly 60% of that. So he was way over $1 million. The short $1 million is if you do the little deals. Tom, did you give that to your ex-wife? Anyway, that's a whole other story. I didn't realize how many people have ex-wives until I started coaching 27 years ago. Well, Dan, can we put, I don't want this in my name. Well, why not? Well, I got a stipulation, a thing for my, I don't want to know. You handle it, you get your lawyers. I don't want to know anything about that. I want plausible deniability. I want more than arm's length. I'm not interested in all that shit. By the way, the people on the Hall of Shame are there for two reasons. The only thing of not having all that shit on the walls is that I can't point to this asshole or this cunt because they're not here. But they're on the Hall of Shame for two reasons. Number one, they don't pay taxes, or they don't want to pay taxes. And number two, securities fraud. Securities fraud. Securities fraud. They're selling securities without a license. Okay. And you will get some half-assed lawyer, bald-headed guy from the University of Spoiled Children that'll write you an opinion that's not worth shit that tells you these aren't securities. That's what happens. And they are securities. You know when they're securities? When the fucking judge says they're a security. When the adjudicating body says it's a goddamn security, it's a security, whether you think so or not. And most of them get in trouble. Because when you get going, and you're going to hear Marcus Bauer in a couple of days, who holds the world's record on crowdfunding, 2 minutes and 32 seconds. 2 minutes and 32 seconds. He's got a following. He can't, when he goes to the airport, they run him down like fucking a rock star. And you'll hear his story in a couple of days. Anything else about Tom or the deal? everybody understands why it broke down. And even though it was that positive, they still break down. And you just got to be prepared. And that's why when you have a team of seasoned transaction people, they understand things fall to shit at the 1-inch line. But if you've never been there, fuck, it's, it's not gut-wrenching to me. It doesn't even faze me. I've had people die at the closing. I don't give a fuck. Literally. Signing the paper. And they say, Dan, well, why, was that guy left-handed? Because when you're left-handed, your hand goes across the ink, right? Or was that you trying to be left-handed, Mr. Peña? I don't know what you're talking about. I've never taken the fifth in court. I've come close a couple times, but I've never taken the fifth. You don't have to say stuff that's incriminating about yourself. But, but I've had people die at the closing, signing the fucking paper. Fortunately for me, they somehow got their hand all the way across and they finished their signature. By the grace of Allah. That's my story. The other side has got a different story, but it's who prevailed in court. Was it $100,000 Judge Harry or $10,000 Judge Carl? And that has nothing to do with when you make donations to judges where they're running for office. I think it's great that they I don't like appointed judges for life. I don't like that. I like when they have to run for an office. Yeah, somebody's hand. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm very ignorant of all this, but...
Pardon?
There's a lot I don't know about all this, so this might...
You don't know about all this?
Yeah, well...
Well, nobody knows about all this either.
This might be obvious. So how does he pay himself afterwards? Is that out of the cash flow?
Okay.
And is he miserable just managing...
Yeah, okay. Oh, sorry.
And then did it work for him? Does he just find himself miserable now managing a rehabilitation center? He doesn't want to...
No, he doesn't want... Yeah, but for him, it's good to be around all the drunks all the time. Keeps him sober. I have never found a rehab center that wasn't owned by a recovering something. Heroin addict, drunk, I've never seen one. I'm sure they must be one, but I've never seen it. It's kind of like when your default is watching other people make sure they don't default. I guess that's a good default. But to answer your question, remember he said that he got a $500,000 working capital? Well, and when we teach you how to get working capital, he could have paid the lawyers out of that. But he's just a dumb fucking sailor. He doesn't know shit. There's more than one way to skin the cat. Secret sauce that we don't put on YouTube. So the way he described the deal initially was wrong. But I've gotten so tired of correcting everybody because nobody knows what they're doing. But see, you don't believe me. That's why I'm going to do that surgery. Well, I might have to do the surgery now in Guatemala instead of Palmdale. I thought Palmdale was far enough, but I think I might have to go to Guatemala. You can just hang up your goddamn board in Guatemala. As my grandmother used to say, no me diga. Que barbaridad. She thought I was an angel as well. Yes, sir, in the back.
So if we bring 5 deals to the board, we decide to move forward on 3, and they...
No. Well, you want to bring 5 that in your mind, because you've been talking to your board members and you've been keeping them up to date, that all 5 are going to go. But when they're all together, there's a common brain, and then there's a group brain. The group brain may be able to figure out that maybe this one's not as well. It's good. And most of the deals that, even though in numbers pan out, you will not, where I dropped those, you will not pass the hub and spoke test. Hub and spoke test. Are you shaking your head because you know what I'm about to say? Or you're just shaking your head? Oh, hub and spoke. Because let's say your hub's Atlanta. And 3 of the deals are within 2 hours drive of Atlanta. And one's in Memphis, Tennessee. That's too far. And one's in Jacksonville, Florida. That's too far. Because in the beginning, time management is critical. Do you be able to get around it until you can find a general manager or somebody to run this shit? And the first acquisition, you're going to be there on the ground, wherever it is. You're going to be there, and you're going to be there until you make your second acquisition. So you can tell your wife and all this shit, I'll see you in 4 or 5 months. And that's when you're starting to learn the business. Because you're there. And by the time you've made 2 or 3 acquisitions, and running home health doesn't take a genius or rocket scientist or Einstein. And by the time you've made 4 or 5, and hopefully in the 4 or 5, one of these individuals that you're buying it from, because remember, we haven't got to this yet, you're going to ask them to stay on between 3 and 36 months. 3 months if they're a pain in the ass, and you want to have the ability to throw them out. But 36 months at the upper end, and you're learning from that individual, that person. A lot of the deals that you're going to buy are 2 brothers, a brother and a sister, this and that, and one doesn't want to leave. Perfect. So you incentivize them to stay, and you incentivize them. Let's say it's a $1 million deal. It's a little business. You know, for every dollar above $1 million that we do, I do it not every dollar. For every $100,000 that we do more than $1 million, I'll give you 10%. Or you can attach it to some sort of equity in the holding company. There's all kind of ways to skin the cat. But you got to do the first deal. All the rest are just like a math class. You know, it's fine. You work out the numbers, but it doesn't prove anything. Did I answer your question? There was somebody else? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So the deal for Tom, would you walk away? Didn't have.
No. I mean, no. I only walk away when I find fraud, or if I find one lie, that's all I need, and I walk away. Now, these guys didn't lie. What they did is the deal was 30%, on top of it, the deal was 30% better than it was. And of course, the seller did find out. We disclosed it to him. We didn't, I mean, he made it sound like we didn't disclose it, but we did disclose it. And the licensing in California, and Orange County is not the worst. Is San Francisco, whatever county that's in, that's the hardest. Those are the real pricks. But the Orange County is, not easy. There's not hardly anything's easy in California. Everything is they bust your balls. That's why some of the Silicon guys are leaving. They should have left years ago. I hear residential from San Joaquin Valley to Napa. Napa's north of San Francisco, right? Real estate prices have dropped 30%. Because the Silicon guys that bid up all the fucking houses are leaving. So you bought a house for $5 million right at the top of the market. And now it's worth $3.5 million. And banks mark to the market now, loans. And you may not have enough equity in the house anymore. So all kinds of ugly things. And these are the things that are going to happen because of Corona. Yet there's people, great salesmen, that are trying to convince people in Manhattan that real estate is going to go up in value after Corona. I mean, what are you smoking, kid? I mean, they say it's going to be more valuable because I can't even say it without laughing. It's bullshit. It's not going to be more valuable. 5 years from now, remember some of you, 9/11, when they added additional security at the airports, right? We all thought it was a pain in the ass, right? We all were hoping it was going to go away. Didn't go away, did it? If anything, it's worse now than it was then. The same with Corona. Okay, we're now going to hear, okay, YouTube, thank you.